What is up, everybody? Mr. Curtis here. Welcome to 8.5. We're doing a little decolonization. Try and say that 3 times fast. In India, 1900 2001 is this time period, but really we're looking at 1900 2001, I guess. Why not? This is one of those videos that's like key or clutch or like it's just, this is the video that's like the bread and butter of the second half of Unit 8. If there is nothing else that you're going to remember, this is the one that really fits in with almost anything that they can ask, and they being the College Board, AP World, people who write the tests and stuff. This is the video, this is the one that fits in with almost anything with decolonization. South Asia is like the place to focus on, especially when we start reviewing and stuff, because it fits in with so much good stuff. So with that said, let's do a little rock and roll here. Contextualization, because you know what's coming already. And from 1750 to 1900 was the time period of industrialization and imperialism. And during that time, the East India Company was, in the first half of this period, the East India Company, which had been in India since the Age of Exploration, had set up areas on the coastline to trade with India for things like cotton and sugar and tea, and eventually opium. Don't forget opium. Their control begins to extend as they start to control local princes and then start to almost topple local princes. And they hire these soldiers called sepoys to rebel, and the sepoys to help them fight, and the sepoys eventually rebel. And the British government's like, yo, we can't let this East India Company take over India, we should take it over ourselves as the British Crown. So they get rid of the East India Company. The British takes over. They establish what's called the British Raj in India, where the Queen is pretty much in charge, the Queen of England, that is, and the Mughal Empire is gone. India was considered to be the jewel of the crown, and then in World War I and World War II, which is the 1900 to present time period, the people of India were promised their independence if they helped the British fight. After World War I, they don't get it. We see an increase in nationalism, and then World War II, we see a more increase in nationalism. Just a quick reminder of some nationalism, and this is considered nationalist leaders and parties who challenged the colonial rule. Boom. We got 2 different groups here. We got my man on this side, Mohandas Gandhi, also known as the Mahatma. So you might have heard of him referred to as Mahatma Gandhi, but his birth name is Mohandas Gandhi. He is kind of seen as the leader post-World War I of the Indian National Congress. It is primarily educated Indians who are part of it, and it's almost entirely made up of Hindus. They were not exclusionary. They didn't exclude, sure. They didn't exclude people who were non-Hindus, but it's just naturally because of the makeup of India, it was primarily Hindus. Gandhi and his followers focused on nonviolent protests. And I will give you some more examples of these in class, but just as a quick rundown, one thing that they do is called the homespun movement, where instead of buying British cotton and British textiles, because it was similar to mercantilism, where if you were in India, you couldn't buy any other textiles from any other country but Britain. So the Indian people say, hey, instead of buying from Britain, why don't we make our own clothes? So they start the homespun movement. So if you ever see pictures of Gandhi, like here, he's always wearing very simple white cloth. And the homespun movement, people refuse to buy the dyes for their clothes from the British. So you always see anyone part of the homespun movement, simple white clothing. Also, something as simple as salt. Salt was like totally necessary in India to preserve meats and to preserve foods. You have to salt it in order so it doesn't go bad, because most people don't have refrigerators. And that salt had to be purchased from the British. So he actually goes on what is called the Salt March, which is a couple hundred miles to the coast of India, and he goes to the ocean, and they get salt from the ocean, which is breaking the law, which is illegal, but it's a nonviolent protest. And this is also called civil disobedience, when you disobey a law, but you don't like go around and punch people in the face kind of thing. So that's the Indian National Congress. At the same time, there's also the All-Muslim Leagues. At times, these 2 groups did work together. The All-Muslim League is primarily made up of educated Muslims from India, and their big concern is they are worried about losing power to this group. So if independence comes, what's going to happen? And this group is worried that this group over here is worried, since they're the minority, they're probably like 15-ish% of the population, they are worried that this group is going to take over power and kind of leave them to a bad situation. And this is Muhammad Ali Jinnah. He is the leader of the All Muslim League. So in 1947, post-World War II, the British decide that they, through negotiation, so this is not a war for independence. This is a negotiation deal, and we're going to see other places that actually fight for their independence. But in this case, Britain agrees that the Indian colony will gain their independence, and they decide that they are going to split India in half, and they're going not in half, but they're going to split it. And this term is called partition. Think about like parting the Red Sea, if you know that reference, or parting your hair. To part something is to split it. And in this case, we are splitting India into now two countries. We are going to have this part of India, which is up here, is going to be the Muslim area. And in India in 1947, this area was predominantly Muslim provinces or Muslim states, essentially. And then this area right here is also going to be a Muslim country. And then all the rest will be Hindu. So we're going to split it up into half. So this part is going to become known as Pakistan. This part is going to originally be East Pakistan, but then they're like, we're not like these people, so they become what is called Bangladesh. So it's Muslim country Pakistan, Muslim country Bangladesh, and then the rest of this and over here is going to be India, which is predominantly Hindu. These borders are totally new. This used to be one unified country. If we're not getting the theme of post-World War II, we're splitting up people left and right. This is a totally 100% new borders. You got some issues when you do stuff like this because there are people who are going to be living like right here who are Muslim, but now they're not in the Muslim country, they're in the Hindu country. You got people who live right here in Pakistan who are Hindu and now they're in the Muslim country and they're worried that they're going to lose their rights and privileges and whatnot. So we have this mass migration of people, this displacement of people who are going to try and leave the Muslim side and go to the Hindu side, or leave the Hindu side and go to the Muslim side. And along the way, because of years of tension, there's going to be fighting between these two groups. We're going to see 2 million people die because of Indian independence as a result of this, just because of this split and the battles that fight over where should this border be. Well, we have a neighborhood right here that's almost entirely Muslim, but we're in the Indian side. Why should we leave our house that we've been in for hundreds of years? 10 to 12 million people are going to move across these borders, which is an insane amount of people. You can also see these are people getting on trains, like kind of like the last trains out to go into other countries. And this tension that exists from the splitting of the country, you can blame it, go right back to the British and kind of blame them for this in a sense, is going to lead to tension afterwards. In India, Indians' government and economic policy, when India becomes independent, their government is going to use the British style of government, which is a parliamentary democracy. They don't have a president, they have a prime minister. The prime minister is the head of parliament and is seen as kind of the leader of the government. It is today the largest democracy in the world. There's over 1 billion people today in India. And during the war, rather than taking the side of the US or the Soviet Union, like a lot of these newly independent countries, they don't want to be part of, Western imperialism and colonialism and all that stuff going on because they just got their independence. So they decide that they're going to stay non-aligned during the war. Under just kind of an economic side note, this is one of those things that the AP World throws in. The economy in India during this time is under Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Gandhi is a very popular name amongst politicians, even to this day in India. In the 50s and 60s, the goal is how can we modernize India? Like they were really, most of these colonial countries are going to there's going to be some industrialization there, but it's not fully industrialized. The Europeans didn't want them to become fully industrialized. So when they gain their independence, the question becomes, how can we industrialize? So she implements 3 different 5-year plans to modernize India, similar to Stalin. I hate to compare Indira Gandhi to Stalin, but similar to those plans in the communist countries where we're going to have 5-year plans, we're going to have goals, we're going to have targets, we're going to focus on industry. It's similar to that. Also, she does nationalize banks, so there's no private banks. It's all going to be government-run banks. These two things are very socialist in nature, and it shows, and what the AP World wants you to know is that this shows a very strong government role in these newly independent countries. Instead of allowing like free market policies, there's going to be a government control to like push the people, that's me pushing the people, to industrialization and to promote development, that we can't just let it happen naturally and organically. We got to push them into that. So that's kind of this example here. I have a feeling it's going to be an AP World SAQ at some point, so put a little star. That's why I bolded it. In terms of migration, also people are going to leave India and Pakistan even throughout the second half of the 20th century and into the 21st century in what are called metropoles. And the idea is that when countries gain their independence, there's still a connection between that mother country and the former colony. And a lot of people are going to leave these former colonies and go to their colonizing country to live for more economic opportunity. If you remember in Unit 6, we talked about the push-pull factors of migration. That's going to exist now. And if you look, I just put up here a little chart of the nationality of migrants living in the UK. If you go back to 2001, you'll see the majority of people are from Ireland, which is very close to Britain. But also India is one of the top ones. And India, outside of Poland, which has their own issues in the early 21st century, which is why there's a large number. But India is a very common emigration to Britain. So there's a lot of cultural ties between the two. A lot of people in India and Pakistan as well learn to speak English. So there's a connection, and it makes it easy to go there. And there's also people in England who are from India and Pakistan, so you have that cultural connection as well, like we talked about. One last thing, the issue today, India and Pakistan do not get along today. There's a lot of tension over this region right here, which is called Kashmir. And Kashmir has its majority Muslim, but it's run by primarily India, but people there want to be part of Pakistan, especially in this northern part here. And there's a lot of tension that flares up every once in a while. And we're talking late early 1900s, early 2000s, where there's a lot of flare-ups going on here, where one person gets killed on the border and whatnot, and then it leads to these tensions, where we should all be a little fearful. And this is one of those, people always say, if there's going to be a World War III, where is it going to start? This is one of those spots that if a World War III broke out, this could be one of the potential places, because India and Pakistan both have nuclear weapons today, and both of their nuclear weapons are pointed at each other. Unlike the Soviet Union, the United States in the Cold War, which were separated significantly in terms of where their populations are located, they're right next to each other. And in terms of number of warheads and how many missiles they have, you can see 48 aircraft, 36 for Pakistan, 56 ballistic missiles to 56 ballistic missiles, and then 14 cruise missiles to 8 cruise missiles. So that's a lot of nuclear weapons, a source of fear and tension amongst people today. So this is called nuclear proliferation, by the way, building up of nuclear weapons, nuclear proliferation. Nuclear non-proliferation would be the decreasing of nuclear weapons. That's what I got. India, Pakistan, star this section. Put a big heart around this or something. You got to look over this section before the AP exam, because this is the moneymaker spot. This is it right here. Meat and potatoes. Any other thing you want to say? Whatever. I'm out. Write down any questions you got. Sure, why not? Peace.